Hello, Sarah Sabin here with the Leading in the Modern Way video interview series. And I'm really excited to have with me here today Henry Smith, who is the CEO of Sentium Consulting. Henry, hello, welcome to the show. And would you like to briefly introduce yourself to my listeners?
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for having me. To introduce myself, I'm Henry, CEO and founder of Sentium Consulting. Coming from a background of machine learning engineering and data science in industry in the financial space, I then founded my own business to deliver this. In short, what we do is design and build bespoke AI systems, both for large and for small businesses. So we work across a range of industries from pharmaceutical, healthcare, finance, retail, logistics, and deliver really cutting-edge AI systems. Think of ChatGPT, predictive forecasting, optimization, data integration, and deliver those in a really nuanced, specialist way that fits the customer's use case.
Awesome. So I'd love to know what motivated you to found your business relatively early on in life.
It was something that I think was a organic thing. It wasn't something that I planned in advance. But having worked in an industry, in a financial world, working in a quant hedge fund, I was designing and building data systems for the purposes of trading stocks and shares. And as things grew, as obviously in 2020 COVID happened and the world really drastically changed, and these sorts of skill sets, this sort of expertise became rapidly more and more in demand. It made sense, rather than working for a large corporation doing this on a salary, it made sense to start doing my own thing, bring some of my ideas to the customer and delivering that at a larger scale.
And when you first started Sentium, which, according to LinkedIn, was about 4 years ago now, what were some of the significant challenges that you faced at the beginning of the business, and how did you overcome those?
That's a good one. I think when you're starting out like that, I think there's more things are challenges than not. Everything from staffing, from initial demand and credibility creation, from financials, all of those things are a big challenge. One aspect being, I had a really good team around me. I was fortunate I'd made some connections within the industry and had some good engineers. But obviously building credibility with your initial customers, how do you show them that you're someone to trust their machine learning to if you've only just got started? Lack of case studies, lack of that. So we work very hard to do things like to show people what we're capable of, to build that trust through the quality of our initial work so that we could establish credibility going forwards.
So you basically did projects to get a foot in the door in order to be able to establish that credibility. Is that correct?
That's right. It's entirely grown off the back of the quality of our results. And once we had established that relationship with people, what we found was once we got in the door and people saw what we were capable of, it went really well. What we found was me and my team had come from a background in the finance world where everything is very results driven, very performance focused, and really leveraging the latest technology to deliver that performance. That is not the case in many other industries. So when we expand into industries like healthcare, like pharmaceuticals, like retail, the technical results-driven focus within the technology teams was not there. So this approach translated really, really well. And we were able to impress people with that quality of delivery.
And you know what's interesting? I find that wherever you came from initially and whatever experience you have initially, and you talked about obviously the engineering background working within finance, you take elements of that experience and that network in order to bring into what you're doing within your company.
Yes, absolutely. It's certainly been a very valuable experience to have. And in fact, although when the business started in 2020, the interest was very much around pharmaceuticals and healthcare. As you can imagine, they were the big growth areas at that time. Since then, we've actually circled back and are delivering many more projects in financial services where that expertise has really come into play.
And 4 years on, what's the most pressing thing on your mind? So if there was something you could sprinkle magical fairy dust over, what would that be?
So I think at this point, I mean, obviously we've been through the whole gamut of business challenges. We're now up to a headcount of 50. We've opened offices in 2 countries, having started as a remote business. We've now offices in the UK, where I am right now in Shoreditch, and in Armenia, in Yerevan, which we set up from scratch. Right now, and this is quite a specific one and maybe not the worst problem to have, but right now with the obviously the explosion of interest triggered by ChatGPT in the AI machine learning space. Honestly, right now, it's just about keeping up with the interest and demand. We've been having non-stop requests for can AI solve this, or can it help with this? Can we get ChatGPT to do this? And the answer is often yes, but it's been a very exciting, also challenging time being able to keep up with that pace of interest.
Mm. And how do you keep up with that pace? Because, you know, obviously it's great to grow quickly, but as you say, it can bring with it challenges. So what have you done to enable you to keep up with that growth without things breaking along the way?
So really, it's all about the team that you have, the people that you've got working for you, and then the processes and systems that you've got in place for them to operate within. So I'm lucky I've got a really strong management team supporting me. We have some really capable specialists across recruitment, HR and operational management, across sales and marketing, and they do a great job. But then also really, you know, what the last thing you want to do is scale too quickly, and then the quality and standards that were enabled you to grow to that level in the first place then slip, and then you end up going backwards. So we're really putting in place rigid processes around quality, rigid processes around screening and hiring for new engineering talent to make sure that we're able to sustainably keep up with the demand.
Mm. And given what you do, it's not surprising that, you know, you're saying to me processes and systems are important, which of course they are. And I think companies can leave it a bit too late, and that's why things tend to break. So the earlier that you can put those in place and obviously tweak them as you're going along, the better.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I think it's vital not only that you put them in place, but that you keep reviewing them and updating them as well.
Yeah.
A process that's going to work. You know, we've grown very, very fast as a business. We've grown from a handful of one tiny team to now pushing 50 in the space of 3.5 years. And in that time, we've had probably 3 or 4 complete overhauls of our operational processes as we've outgrown each successive one. A process that's working for 10 people is not going to work very well for 40 people. So it's about constantly iterating, keeping agile in a genuine sense, not just as a buzzword, and really looking critically at how do we improve these things, make this better? What will we need to change in the next 6 months to keep up with this pace of growth?
Yes, and that's exactly it. New level, new devil. So as you grow, you also outgrow some of the processes that you might have put in place at the beginning, and indeed sometimes outgrow some of the team members as well. So the people that you had at the beginning might not be the correct people in the correct roles at a later stage in the business.
That's definitely possible. I've certainly encountered that or observed that in many other businesses. I think I've been quite fortunate to have team members who've had a very constructive mindset and have really been able to grow and learn and keep up with that pace of change. But I think that's it. You need to look at something I personally look for in team members as people who've got a constructive growth mindset. I would personally prioritize that over someone who's had either loads of experience or has a lot of on-paper qualifications. I would much rather take someone who's got an open mind and learns things really quickly and is adaptable than the former for that reason, especially given the nature of the business, what we're doing. It's a very new space. AI software has not been around commercially, at least, for a very long time. And the way we're approaching it by building new bespoke systems that have really never been on the market before, that is something where hiring someone with 30 years experience is going to be less relevant, as that none of that experience would have been doing this thing. So finding people who are able to adapt and able to learn and engage with that is much more important. And that comes with scaling as well. People who can adapt to the scale of the business and adapt their own working patterns and adapt how they're managing others.
Yes, and I 100% agree with that, because essentially, if someone is curious, open to learning, and agile, they can learn new skills, and furthermore, they want to learn new skills. But, if you focus just on what's on that piece of paper, it doesn't tell you anything about their value set, their personality, whether they have a growth or a fixed mindset. So yes, 100% agree with that. So how do you personally define strong leadership, Henry, and how do you see it impacting the growth of Sentium?
I think there's hundreds of aspects of strong leadership that are important. I think one area I think is really key is to, where possible, lead by example. So I think that I would say that when we do have be that a tough deadline, whether we have a really challenging obstacle that we need to overcome within the business, I've got fortunate to have team members who will work extremely hard, put in the overtime where needed, will go the extra mile, but I will want to be doing that with them, putting that time in, putting that support in, and sometimes sticking up for people where needed. We have had situations where, sometimes, especially being pressed by a customer, especially if you're a smaller business, the customer is really important to you, it can be very difficult to say no to things, but it's necessary sometimes. You've got to stick up and say, actually, no, this is going to have such a damaging impact on the team. We're not going to stand for that. On the other hand, when you do need to really gun it to hit the deadline, you want to be there with the team, putting in those hours, putting in that hard work to show them that you're all in that together.
Yes, I call that modeling leadership behaviors, because people see what you actually do, not what you say other people should do. And so it's very hard to say to people, right, we have to go the extra mile, if you as a leader are not prepared to go the extra mile. And the other point that you made about setting boundaries with clients for the good of the team is also, I think, important for engagement, because you can, as a company, choose to put customers first, or you can choose to put employees first. And actually, if you choose the latter, then your customers tend to get served better anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tricky balance, and ideally, you want to be making your customers and your team aligned. That will produce a better outcome, not just for your employees, but also typically produce a much better outcome for the customer as well. And we really focus on that, is building a partnership with customers rather than making it just a one-off transactional relationship where they're trying to extract as much value from us as possible in a short space of time. We think that it's in everyone's best interest if we can serve as a long-term partner going forwards, especially in something like AI technology. AI technology is not going anywhere. This is a long-term transformative subject, and it's something that any larger business is going to really benefit from implementing sustainably with a growth mindset themselves. So for them and for us, building that partnership, we can be there with them. Some of our most valued customers we've been working with since the very early days of the business, over 3 years now. Been working with the same teams, the same customers, and really help them along that long-term journey of AI-driven digital transformation, and they've benefited a lot from that. So that's where we want to focus on. The customers just looking really short-termist. They just want want to really maximize, extract that value out of us over a very short space of time, with a very short-sighted mindset. Yeah, it's much less appealing.
Well, you know what? As you say, AI is a constantly changing space. So, similarly to what you've alluded to earlier, things change all the time, right? So we were talking about processes earlier and how what you did a year ago might not serve you today. It's the same with AI. You might partner with a company on a piece of AI transformation, but then the whole space shifts in the next year and something else becomes necessary.
Yeah, it's definitely true. I think picking an area to focus in within the AI space right now is very, very challenging because exactly that, if you commit to a particular, be that a particular language model, a particular technical methodology today, then next week it could be completely irrelevant and it could be completely superseded by something new. I think the key there is a big differentiator for us is that we've not been doing this for 6 months or 12 months. There's a lot of businesses when ChatGPT came along, it was a year ago last week, I believe. ChatGPT came along and really caused this explosion of interest. Every business suddenly popped up saying, we're an AI business now. We're an AI technology business. Because they Googled a few Medium articles, they looked at a bit of maybe a paper on Oxford if they're really specialized, and then they think that they're experts in the space. But I feel those businesses are the ones most susceptible to falling into these traps because they will see these buzzwords, they'll see these new technologies cropping up, and they'll commit to them, saying it as a great commercial opportunity, and then they'll be obsolete potentially tomorrow. Whereas for us, we've got that fundamental understanding of how these generative AI systems work, where they've come from, where they're going to, so we can make much more long-sighted decisions and put in place much more durable systems that will be scalable, upgradable, and won't be made irrelevant in just a few months.
Yes, because I mean, ChatGPT is just the tip of the iceberg, I think. And by the time something's come into mass adoption or mass awareness, as ChatGPT has, the chances are it's already sort of going towards irrelevance or being behind the trends curve by the time everyone's heard of it anyway.
That's right. I mean, ChatGPT was really just, I think, was standing on the shoulders of years and years and years of AI, incremental AI research and development. What ChatGPT did really was just bring this into a form factor and to a quality level that was mass usable. And I mean, credit to OpenAI for doing that. They really did something transformative, even though it was certainly more iterative than people expect. It definitely did do a fantastic job at opening people's eyes. I mean, the model itself, the model that ChatGPT was originally based on, is something called GPT 3.5. This model was actually originally trained, GPT-3, the core model underlying it, was originally trained in 2020. Hence, you'll see that you used to see that knowledge limitation where it didn't know anything beyond that, because that's when it was originally trained. And that was launched more than a year later in 2022. So yeah, it's certainly not as sudden as people expect. But obviously, again, having that longer term experience, we've been doing language models projects, or I personally have been working on language AI for maybe 5-6 years now. So that's gives us a lot more contextual awareness and a lot deeper expertise to utilize these now.
So, in general, how have you invested in yourself as a leader, and what steps do you take to grow and evolve in your role?
So, I think personally, and you can imagine with the nature of the business, a real key is for me to not get out of touch with this technology. Our edge as a business is the fact that we are at the forefront of what is technically possible, and we're pushing that boundary. And we're delivering that in a commercially available form factor for our customers. So for me, I think the worst thing I could possibly do as a CEO of this business is to take my eye off the ball and to step too far away from the technology, the engineering aspects. Although my role is not to build systems, I'm no longer an engineer, I'm not working on these deliveries for our customers. Nonetheless, I have to spend a lot of time engaging with the scene, looking at reading new papers, reading new articles, getting hands-on and trying out these new technologies to be able then to confidently pitch these to our customers and deliver these projects. So that's something really important, and definitely not a small consumer of time. It's keeping involved with the technology.
And what about your leadership of people? How do you develop skills in that area?
I think it really comes down to just through hands-on experience. Obviously, when I started this business, I had fuck all experience. I was completely new to it and didn't really know what I was doing, just trying to work it out as I went along. I feel at this point, I think I've still got a lot to learn, but it's been 3.5 years. And I think at this point, I've experienced a range of different business events, from big successes to disasters to everything in between. And that has built in at least beginnings of an awareness of managing people and having seen these things before, how to achieve a good outcome, working with the team, working with our customers.
Well, it's all very well learning management skills, leadership skills, and don't get me wrong, that is important. But, the important part is actually practically doing it, practically experimenting with it, because you can only really craft a leadership style unique to you when you're actually out there doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a big believer in learning through hands-on experience and learning from your own mistakes. I've never done a leadership course. I've never read a single book on management approach or business theory. I've just got stuck in, and it's working out so far. But yeah, I think one of the early challenges as well. So my business initially growing during the COVID era as a remote business, I did not see physical location or nationality as relevant at all, really, when bringing on staff members. So when we initially grew, I hired out my first 20 staff. I think they were located in 14 different countries across 4 continents. We actually had a big map in the office that we were colouring in with each new nation that we'd hired from. I thought that was a real strength of the business to have such a diversity of staff there, but it also obviously brought its own challenges that led to experience in how to handle these sorts of different cultural aspects, different people's approaches, the legal and economic systems these people were operating within, and how to work with that.
Final question, Henry. If you could go back in time and give one piece of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would that be?
One piece of advice? I would suggest that's a tricky one. I think I would say, yeah, probably to really. I think there's a lot of challenges within the business that could have been that were learned through experience that could have been done better. I think potentially, I think came to the realization maybe slightly too late, that putting in place these good business processes, a good business team structure was so critical. I think maybe for the first 18 months of business growth, I was really just running it on my own, winging it. With success, we grew to about 20 staff in that time, but certainly, could have been done in maybe a less stressful and maybe more robust and less risky way. So that'd probably be it. It's really from an earlier stage, focusing on team and processes, and really planning ahead in that regard.
Well, I think if it only took you 18 months to come to that conclusion, it's not the end of the world, because it can take years, decades to come to that conclusion. So yeah, thank you so much, Henry, for this conversation.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you, Sarah. It's great to talk.
Awesome. And to my listeners, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation as well. If you would like to take part in the Leading in the Modern Way series, please do reach out to me. Bye for now.